Vandra St. James had never been fond of hospitals. Even in her younger years, when life was full of energy and possibilities, the sharp scent of bleach clawed at her throat, and the crisp white coats of doctors made her feel uneasy, as if they held secrets she wasn't ready to hear. As she grew older, those visits became more frequent. High blood pressure one year, heart palpitations the next, joints aching like old doors in need of oil. Her body, once strong and reliable from decades of hard work and careful saving, was now reminding her that time waited for no one. This time, though, it wasn't an emergency siren that brought her to the University Medical Center. It started subtly, dizzy spells that came out of nowhere, a heavy fatigue in her arms and legs, nights where she struggled to catch her breath, feeling like an invisible weight pressed on her chest. She mentioned it to her primary care doctor during a routine checkup. He listened to her heart with his stethoscope, reviewed her blood work, frowned deeply and shook his head. "Miss Vandra, this isn't something to ignore anymore. You need to be admitted for full tests, heart, lungs, everything. We have to rule out serious issues." Vandra sighed but nodded. At 72, arguing felt pointless. Better to face it head-on than let it sneak up later. She packed a small bag, called her husband Drayton to let him know, and took a cab to the hospital herself. The waiting room was a chaotic symphony of human suffering. People shuffled in and out, some on gurneys rushed by nurses, others complaining loudly about wait times. A young woman in the corner sobbing quietly into a plastic bag of belongings. Vandra sat on a hard plastic chair, clutching her purse tightly in her lap, her silk scarf neatly adjusted around her neck. She watched the double doors swing open and close, doctors disappearing behind them like ghosts. "Vandra St. James," a voice finally called from the front desk. She stood slowly, her knees protesting, and walked over. The nurse was efficient, scanning her ID and insurance card. "Internal medicine unit. You've requested a private room?" Vandra nodded. That had been Drayton's insistence. Her second husband, younger by a good 10 years, had said, "Ain't no need for you sharing a room with strangers, Vandra. We got the means. Let's not cut corners on your health." We got the means. Those words always lingered in her mind. The means were hers, built over a lifetime. The brownstone in the city, bought with her first husband's life insurance and her own nursing salary. The lake house up north saved for bit by bit. The retirement accounts and stocks carefully invested. Drayton had entered her life later, after her first husband passed, bringing charm and companionship but little else. She couldn't complain much about him, though. He didn't drink heavily, didn't chase women openly, kept the house clean, and remembered special days with flowers or cards. The ladies at church envied her. "Girl, you lucky." Second husband, and younger too. "Ours are all in the ground. And here you got a fine man." Vandra would just smile and wave it off. "We just living sisters, that's all." But there were moments, a sharpness in his tone when money came up. "These days you can't get ahead without capital, Vandra. Good thing we got that cushion. For our old age, always, we." She knew whose cushion it was, but after 60, peace mattered more than pride. No arguments, no drama. Drayton drove her to appointments, reminded her of medications, cooked simple meals. For that she was grateful. The private room was a small comfort, a proper bed, a sleeper chair for visitors, a TV mounted on the wall, curtains with faded flowers. Quieter than the shared wards she'd heard horror stories about. Vandra settled in, whispered a short prayer for strength, and tried to rest. The first few days blurred into hospital routine. Blood draws at dawn, IV drips, the blood pressure cuff inflating every few hours with a mechanical squeeze. Nurses came and went. Doctors spoke in measured tones but with guarded eyes. Vandra sensed the discussions in the hallway, whispers about her case carrying weight. On the third day, they wheeled her down for scans, lying on the gurney, staring at ceiling tiles for hours. Then the cold MRI machine, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Don't move. The noise was deafening, the tube confining. When it ended, they brought her back, exhausted. After lunch, her attending physician entered, Dr. Perrin, tall with tired eyes. "Miss Vandra, we need to discuss your results. It's best if your husband is here." "Call him then," she said calmly. Drayton had promised to visit that evening anyway. He arrived with a Whole Foods bag, fresh fruits, yogurts, his usual thoughtful gesture. "How's my girl?" He smiled, kissing her forehead. Then he noticed the doctor. "Oh, Doc's here." Dr. Perrin motioned for him to sit. The situation is serious. Scans show a tumor with complications. Surgery is possible, but high risk. Survival odds are slim. Drayton interjected quickly. How slim? Slim, the doctor repeated carefully. Without surgery, I'm afraid it's days, 3 to 5 at most. Silence crashed into the room. Vandra felt her stomach knot. 3 days. Words from TV shows, now real. Drayton stared at the floor, then asked, So, surgery and maybe she doesn't make it, or wait. Roughly, Dr. Perrin nodded. We need time to decide, but not much. We'll talk privately, Drayton said. The doctor left. Vandra forced a weak smile. Another adventure, huh? Drayton took her hand. Don't think negative. Doctors scare people. Maybe another option. His voice had an odd note, but she pushed it aside. They discussed calling her son Trayvon from her first marriage. Her sister the options. Normal talk for abnormal news. Then Drayton checked his watch. Gotta go, babe. Rest. Back tomorrow. He kissed her cheek and left. Alone, Vandra watched city lights flicker on. Carts rattled. Groans echoed. Death is inconvenient, she thought, drifting to sleep. She woke to a presence. Dark outside, dim light. Drayton was back. Thought you went home, she murmured. Had time. Wanted to talk alone? He sat, took her hand, smiled strangely, then squeezed it, whispering, Finally. I've been waiting so long. The house, money, all mine soon. Vandra froze. The words sank in like ice. He continued, smiling freely. Not that I want you gone, but it was coming. Everything clear now. Beautiful service, don't worry. He patted her hand and left. Shock hollowed her. Then the door squeaked. A cleaner with mop and bucket. Come in, Vandra whispered. The woman, tired but kind-faced, began mopping. What's your name? Quanah Rollins. Come closer. Vandra studied her chapped hands, weary eyes. If you do exactly what I ask, Vandra said firmly, you'll never scrub floors again. The night after Drayton's confession felt endless. Vandra lay in the dim hospital room, staring at the faint glow of the monitor beside her bed, listening to the rhythmic beep that marked her heartbeat. Each beep was a reminder she was still here, still breathing, still in control, for now. But the words he had whispered replayed in her mind like a broken record. Finally, the house, the money, everything you got is going to be mine real soon. She had always known, deep down, that Drayton valued the security her assets provided more than he valued her. But knowing and hearing were different things. Hearing it spoken aloud, with that quiet satisfaction in his voice, had stripped away the last thin layer of illusion. The man she had shared a home with for nearly 2 decades was not grieving her possible death. He was counting down to it. Sleep came in fragments, haunted by dreams of empty rooms in the brownstone, Drayton walking through them alone, touching the furniture she had chosen, opening accounts in her name, smiling that same stranger's smile. She woke gasping more than once, her chest tight, the tumor's pressure making every breath a small battle. By morning, the hospital routine resumed. Blood draw, vitals check, breakfast tray with lukewarm oatmeal and weak coffee. Vandra ate mechanically, her mind elsewhere. When the nurse left, she reached for the call bell and pressed it. A different aide appeared this time, but Vandra waved her away. I'm fine, just needed to stretch. She was waiting for Quanah. Around 10 o'clock, the door opened quietly, and Quanah Rollins slipped in, pushing her cleaning cart. She looked both ways down the hall before closing the door behind her. Her uniform was the same navy scrubs, her hair pulled back tightly, but there was a new alertness in her eyes. You all right, Miss Vandra? She asked softly, setting the mop bucket down. I'm alive, Vandra replied. That's more than some folks thought I'd be this morning. Come sit. Quanah glanced at the door again, then pulled the visitor chair closer to the bed and sat, hands folded in her lap. I didn't sleep much thinking about what you said last night, Quanah began. I kept wondering if I dreamed it. Rich lady in a private room offering to change my whole life just for... What exactly? Not for nothing, Vandra said. For helping me protect what's mine, and for keeping quiet about what you heard. Quanah nodded slowly. I ain't told nobody. Not my supervisor, not the nurses, nobody. But Miss Vandra, this is big. If your husband finds out, he won't find out until it's too late for him to do anything about it. Vandra cut in calmly. That's why we have to move fast and smart. Doctors gave me 3 days without surgery. With surgery, maybe longer, maybe not. Either way, I'm not leaving. This earth letting that man profit from my death like it's a lottery win. Quanah's eyes softened. I understand that. My ex-husband did something similar. Left me and our boy with nothing. But Bill's when he ran off with somebody half his age. I know what it feels like to build something and watch somebody else walk away with it. Then you know why I can't let it happen, Vandra said. Now tell me, did you find out about a notary? Kwana reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folded paper. I asked the girls at the front desk real casual. There's a mobile notary service the hospital uses all the time for end-of-life stuff. They got a lady who comes quick, name's Ms. Elena Carter. Number's right here. She slid the paper onto the bedside table. They said she can usually get here same day if it's urgent. Good, Vandra said, unfolding the paper and memorizing the number. I need you to call her for me. Use the phone in the hallway, not your personal cell. Tell her it's for Vandra St. James, private room, University Medical Center. Say it's urgent, new will and durable power of attorney. Ask if she can come this afternoon after 3. Kwana hesitated. What if she asks why I'm calling and not family? Tell her the patient's husband is unavailable right now and the patient asked housekeeping. Staff to assist because she trusts you. Hospitals see stranger things every day. They won't question it too hard. Kwana took a deep breath. Okay, I'll do it on my break at noon. There's one more thing, Vandra continued. When she gets here, I need you to meet her at the main entrance and bring her up yourself. Don't let her check in at the desk and risk somebody mentioning it to Drayton. If he shows up early, take the service elevator if you have to. Bring her straight here, stay outside the door while we do the signing, then walk her back out the same way. Kwana's eyes widened. That's sneaky. That's necessary, Vandra corrected. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm of sound mind. I have the right to change my will anytime I want. But I don't need drama while I'm fighting for my life. Kwana nodded again, more firmly this time. I can do that. But Miss Vandra, what about witnesses? Don't notaries need witnesses? Dr. Perrin already said he'll document in my chart that I'm lucid and competent. He can step in as a witness if needed. And I'm calling my son Trayvon today. He's flying in tomorrow morning. By then, everything will be signed and filed. Kwana looked down at her hands. You trusting me with a lot. I'm trusting you with exactly what you've earned in one night. Your silence and your decency, Vandra said. Most people would have run straight to gossip or to my husband hoping for a tip. You didn't. That tells me who you are. A small smile tugged at Kwana's mouth. My mama always said decency costs nothing and pays the most. Your mama was right, Vandra replied. Now go make that call at noon. Come back and let me know what time she's coming. Kwana stood, smoothed her scrubs, and pushed her cart toward the door. Just before leaving, she turned. Miss Vandra, whatever happens, I'm praying for you. Vandra gave a tired but genuine smile. Pray I live long enough to enjoy watching certain people's faces when they realize they lost. After Kwana left, Vandra asked a nurse for her cell phone charger. Once the phone had enough battery, she dialed the number she knew by heart, Trayvon in Chicago. He answered on the second ring. Mama, everything okay? Not exactly, baby, she said, keeping her voice steady. I'm in the hospital, University Medical Center. It's serious. A long pause. How serious? They found a tumor. Surgery's risky. Without it, not much time. I need you here, Trayvon. Today if you can. Mama, I'm booking the first flight I can get. I'll be there tonight or tomorrow morning latest. You holding up? I'm holding. Just get here safe. We got things to talk about in person. I love you, Mama. Love you more. She hung up before emotion could crack her voice. The rest of the morning passed slowly. Nurses came and went. Dr. Perrin stopped by to check her vitals and discuss surgery prep. Miss Vandra, have you and your husband decided about the procedure? I've decided, she said firmly. I'm doing the surgery. Whatever time I got left, I want to fight for it. He studied her face. That's a brave choice. We'll schedule it as soon as possible, likely day after tomorrow. Good. One more thing, Doctor. A notary's coming this afternoon to update my will and power of attorney. Can you note in my chart that I'm alert, oriented, and making decisions freely? Of course, he said without hesitation. That's standard. I'll document it. Thank you. At 12:45, Kwana returned, knocking softly before entering. It's set, she whispered. Miss Carter can be here at 4:15. Said she'll text the number I gave her when she's in the lobby. Vandra nodded. Perfect. Thank you, Kwana. Kwana lingered. You sure about putting something in the will for me? I haven't done much yet. You've done enough by showing up, Vandra said. And you'll do more this afternoon. I'm leaving you the high-yield savings account, payable on death. So it bypasses probate. Drayton can't touch it. It's not millions, but it's enough to get you and your boy out of the cycle. New start. Quanah's eyes filled, but she blinked hard. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll meet that notary at 4:10 sharp and bring her straight here. I will. The afternoon dragged. Vandra dozed fitfully, woke to pain medication, watched mindless TV with the sound off. At 3:30, Drayton arrived unexpectedly early, carrying a small bouquet of grocery store flowers. Hey, babe, he said, forcing cheer. Thought I'd come keep you company a while? Vandra's heart thudded, but she kept her face neutral. That's sweet. How was your morning? Busy. Running errands, paying bills? He sat, scrolling his phone more than looking at her. They made small talk, weather, church gossip, what he'd eaten for lunch. Every minute felt like an hour. Vandra prayed silently that the notary wouldn't arrive early. At 4:05, Drayton stood. Gotta step out and take a call. Work thing. Be right back. The moment the door closed, Vandra exhaled. 5 minutes later, Quanah appeared, face flushed. She's here. I got her in the service elevator. She's waiting in the stairwell 1 floor down. Nobody saw us. Bring her now, Vandra said. Quanah disappeared and returned with a petite black woman in a navy blazer, carrying a leather portfolio. Elena Carter introduced herself professionally, checked Vandra's ID, and set up her notary seal and journal on the rolling tray table. I understand you wish to execute a new last will and testament. And a durable? Power of attorney, she said. Yes, Vandra replied, voice clear despite weakness. And we need to move quickly. She dictated the terms calmly. The brownstone to her son Trayvon St. James outright. The lake house to be split equally between Trayvon and her niece Latrice. Retirement accounts and investment portfolio to Trayvon, with trusts set up for her grandchildren's education. A high-yield savings account. She recited the account number from memory. To be payable on death to Quanah Rollins. To her husband Drayton St. James. Only the statutory elective share required under state law, the legal minimum to prevent contest, and nothing more. Elena typed rapidly on her tablet, printing pages via a portable printer. Dr. Perrin stepped in briefly to witness and sign that Vandra was competent. Quanah stood guard outside the door. When it was done, Vandra signed with a trembling but determined hand. Elena notarized each page, collected her fee in cash that Vandra had ready in an envelope, and packed up. Thank you, Vandra said. You've done something important today. Elena gave a small, respectful smile. Take care, Miss St. James. Quanah escorted her out the same discreet route. Moments later, Drayton returned, none the wiser. So how are we feeling now? He asked, sitting again. Better, Vandra said. And for the first time in days, she meant it. The documents were signed. Her wishes were locked in. Whatever happened, next, in surgery or beyond, Drayton would never get what he was waiting for. And that knowledge felt like the strongest medicine she'd had yet. The evening after the notary left, Vandra felt a quiet strength settle over her that no medication had managed to provide. The papers were signed, notarized, witnessed, and sealed. Elena Carter had promised to file the new will and durable power of attorney with the county clerk's office first thing the next morning. Once recorded, nothing Drayton could say or do would undo it. The law was now on Vandra's side, and for the first time in days, she slept deeply, no dreams of empty houses or smug smiles. Morning light filtered through the floral curtains when Trayvon burst into the room just after 9. He was tall like his father had been, broad-shouldered, wearing a rumpled hoodie from the red-eye flight out of Chicago. His eyes were red from worry and lack of sleep. But the moment he saw his mother awake and alert, relief flooded his face. Mama! He crossed the room in 3 strides and bent to hug her gently, careful of the IV lines and monitors. Lord, you scared me half to death. Why didn't you call me sooner? Vandra patted his back, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with airport air. Didn't want you worrying from hundreds of miles away, baby. But I'm glad you're here now. He pulled the chair close and sat, still holding her hand. Talk to me. What exactly did the doctors say? She told him everything. The tumor, the complications, the grim prognosis without surgery, the high risk with it. She left out Drayton's midnight confession for now. That could wait until they were alone and she had the strength to watch. Her son's face hardened with anger. Trayvon listened without interrupting, jaw tight. When she finished, he shook his head. "You're doing the surgery, right?" "We're not just waiting. I already told them yes," Vandra said. "It's scheduled for 6 tomorrow morning. I'm going to fight, Trayvon. I've got too much living left to do. And too many people counting on me, including you and those grandbabies." He smiled at that, though his eyes glistened. "Good, because I'm not ready to lose you. Nobody is." They talked for hours. He told her about his wife, Keisha, and the kids, how the oldest had just made honor roll, how the youngest was obsessed with dinosaurs. Vandra soaked it in like sunshine. Family had always been her anchor, even when marriages faltered. Around noon, Drayton appeared in the doorway, carrying a paper bag from a nearby deli. He paused when he saw Trayvon, surprise flickering across his face before he arranged it into a polite smile. "Well, look who made it!" "Trayvon, good to see you, son." He stepped forward, offering a hand. Trayvon stood and shook it briefly, firm but cool. "Drayton." "I brought some lunch," Drayton said, setting the bag on the tray table. "Turkey club for Vandra, roast beef for me. Got you something too, Trayvon. Pastrami, right?" Trayvon nodded. "Thanks." The three of them ate in awkward near silence. Drayton tried small talk about the weather and Chicago traffic. Trayvon answered in monosyllables. Vandra watched them both, noting how Drayton kept glancing at her as if trying to read her mood. After lunch, Trayvon excused himself to make phone calls, updating Keisha, checking on work leave. The moment he stepped into the hallway, Drayton leaned closer to the bed. "So," he said quietly, "you been resting okay?" "Better than I expected," Vandra replied. He hesitated, then lowered his voice further. "You mentioned yesterday something about a notary coming by." "Paperwork, you said?" Vandra met his eyes steadily. "That's right. Surgery's risky. Doctors aren't making promises. I decided it was time to get my affairs in order proper." Drayton's fingers tightened around the bed rail. "And what exactly did you put in the new papers?" She allowed herself a small, calm smile. "Everything the law says I'm allowed to do. My son gets the house he grew up in. The lake place gets shared fair between him and Latrice. Retirement funds stay in the family bloodline. And you—" She paused just long enough for the words to land. "You get exactly what the state says a spouse is entitled to. The elective share. Nothing more, nothing less." His face went slack for a second, shock breaking through the mask. Then color rose in his cheeks. "Vandra, come on now. After all these years? I've been here every day." "You've been here," she agreed softly. "Driving me to appointments, bringing fruit, sitting in this chair. I ain't denying that. But we both know why you stayed so faithful these last 20 years, Drayton. And it wasn't my cooking." He glanced toward the door, making sure Trayvon hadn't returned. "You eavesdropping on private thoughts, don't—" "Make 'em the whole truth," he hissed. "I cared about you." "Maybe you did, in your way," Vandra said. "But you cared a whole lot more about what I owned. And I heard you clear as day counting down my last breaths like they was calendar pages." Drayton opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "You can still change it back. We can call that notary woman again." "No," Vandra cut in, voice like steel despite her frailty. "It's done. Filed this morning. Even if I wanted to, and I don't, there ain't time before surgery tomorrow." He stared at her, breathing hard. For the first time since she'd known him, Drayton looked small. "You really doing me like this?" "I'm doing me like this," she corrected. "Finally putting myself and my real family first. You'll be fine. Elective shares generous. More than enough to buy a nice condo and live comfortable. You just won't be living in my brownstone or spending my savings." The door opened then, and Trayvon stepped back in. Drayton straightened quickly, forcing a neutral expression. "I'm gonna head out for a bit," Drayton said, voice tight. "Let y'all visit. I'll be back later." He didn't kiss her goodbye this time, just nodded stiffly and left. Trayvon watched him go, then turned to his mother. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," Vandra said, and meant it. The rest of the day passed in a gentle rhythm. Trayvon stayed by her side, reading aloud from a book he'd brought, showing her new photos of the grandchildren on his phone. Nurses prepped her for surgery. Blood work, IV fluids, consent forms. Dr. Perrin stopped by to explain the procedure one more time. They would remove as much of the tumor as possible, relieve pressure on vital structures, then decide on next steps based on what they found. Kwana appeared twice, once to empty the trash discreetly, once during evening rounds pushing her mop. Each time she caught Vandra's eye and gave the smallest nod. Message received. The notary had confirmed filing. Everything was official. At 8 o'clock, visiting hours ended. But the nurses bent rules for family on surgery eve. Trayvon kissed his mother's forehead. I'll be in the waiting room tomorrow. From the minute they take you till they bring you back. You hear me? You come back to us, Mama. I plan to, she whispered. Alone again, Vandra stared at the ceiling. Fear was there. Surgery was dangerous. Recovery uncertain, but it was dwarfed by something new, peace. She had protected her legacy. She had protected her son. And in helping Kwana, she had passed forward the kind of lifeline someone had once given her when she was a young widow, raising a boy alone. She whispered a prayer, not just for survival, but for the strength to live differently on the other side, to travel, to spoil grandchildren, to sit on the lake house porch without wondering what someone else was plotting. Sleep finally came, deep and dreamless. At 5 a.m. the next morning, orderlies wheeled her bed toward the operating suite. Bright lights overhead, cold air, masked faces. Trayvon walked beside her until the doors, holding her hand. I love you, Mama. Love you more. Anesthesia mask over her face. Count backwards from 10. 10, 9, 8. Darkness. The surgery lasted 7 hours. Trayvon paced the surgical waiting room, drank bad coffee, prayed with the chaplain who stopped by. Kwana, on her early shift, mopped the same hallway 3 times, just to stay close enough to hear updates. At 1:17 p.m., the surgeon emerged, mask down, fatigue in his eyes but a cautious smile. She's in recovery, he told Trayvon. We got more of the tumor than we hoped, about 85%. It was aggressive, but margins look clean. She's not out of the woods, but she's got a real chance now. A fighting chance. Trayvon sank into a chair and cried, quiet, grateful tears. When Vandra woke hours later in the PACU, pain cloaked her like a heavy blanket, but the first sensation was breath, easier, deeper than it had been in weeks. A nurse's voice floated above her. Miss Vandra, squeeze my hand if you can hear me. She squeezed. Good, surgery's over. You did great. Later, wheeled back to her room, Trayvon was there waiting. He took her hand again, careful of the new lines and bandages. You made it, Mama, you're tough as nails. She managed a raspy whisper. Told you I had living left to do. Over the next days, recovery was slow and brutal. Pain medication, breathing exercises, ice chips turning to sips of water. Drayton visited twice, brief. Strained encounters where he asked about her health but avoided her eyes. The third time he came, she was sitting up slightly, Trayvon in the corner reading. Drayton stood at the foot of the bed. Glad you're pulling through, he said. I am, Vandra replied. Going to have to wait a little longer for that windfall, Drayton. He flinched. I didn't mean... You did, she said quietly. But it's all right. We're walking different roads now. You can stay in the brownstone till I'm discharged and strong enough to go home. After that, we'll make arrangements. Fair ones. He nodded once, shoulders slumped, and left without another word. Trayvon raised an eyebrow after the door closed. You want to tell me the whole story now? Vandra sighed. Get Kwana in here first. She needs to hear the good news too. Kwana arrived minutes later, eyes wide. Vandra told them both. Drayton's words that night. The midnight plan? The new will? Trayvon's face darkened with protective fury, but he listened until the end. When Vandra finished, Kwana was openly crying. Miss Vandra, I checked the account online this morning with the info the notary gave me. It's real. It's really there. My boy can finish college without loans. We can move somewhere better. You earned it, Vandra said firmly. Kindness in a hard world is rare currency. You spent it on me when you didn't have to. Trayvon reached over and shook Kwana's hand. Welcome to the family. Miss Kwana, anybody who helps my mama like that is good with me. Weeks of rehab followed, first sitting up, then standing, then shuffling down the corridor with a walker while nurses cheered. Drayton's visits stopped entirely. He texted once asking about discharge date. Trayvon replied that details would come through lawyers. When Vandra finally went home to the brownstone 6 weeks later, it was Trayvon and Keisha who helped her up the steps, not Drayton. His belongings were gone, moved out quietly while she was still in hospital. A note on the kitchen counter read, Wish you the best, D. Vandra crumpled it and tossed it away. That spring, she sat on the lake house porch with Trayvon's children running in the grass. Kwana and her son barbecuing with them, laughter filling the air. The tumor was in remission, scans clean. Doctors called her a miracle. She didn't feel like a miracle. She felt like a woman who had finally chosen herself, and in doing so, had made room for real love to grow around her. And that, she thought, watching the sunset over the water, was worth every hard breath she'd fought for. Spring arrived gently that year, the way it does when you've almost forgotten what warmth feels like. Cherry blossoms lined the streets leading to Vandra's brownstone, their petals drifting like soft pink snow onto the sidewalks. 6 months had passed since the surgery, 6 months of grueling rehabilitation, follow-up scans, cautious celebrations, and quiet victories. The tumor was gone, the margins clean. The latest, PET scan showing nothing but the ordinary glow of an aging body healing itself. The doctors used words like remarkable recovery and against the odds, but Vandra preferred simpler terms: blessed, stubborn, alive. She stood on the front steps of her home now, cane in one hand for balance, watching Trayvon and his family unload boxes from a rental van parked at the curb. Keisha directed the kids, 12-year-old Amara and 9-year-old Malik, with the easy authority of a mother who knew chaos could be tamed. They were moving in temporarily, or so they said, to help Vandra settle back into independent living. But everyone knew it would likely become permanent. Chicago winters were hard on Trayvon's joints, and the schools here were good. More than that, no one wanted to be far from Vandra anymore. "Mama, you sure you don't want to sit inside?" Trayvon called, lifting a box labeled Kitchen Fragile. "I'm fine right here," Vandra replied, smiling. "Been cooped up long enough? Let me feel this sunshine." The brownstone looked the same as it always had. Red brick, black iron railing, window boxes waiting for geraniums, but it felt different now. Drayton's absence lingered like a ghost that had finally been exorcised. His things were gone, the closets half empty, his cologne no longer in the bathroom. He'd taken the elective share, about a third of the liquid assets. Enough for a comfortable condo downtown and a new car, and signed the divorce papers without contest. The last time Vandra saw him was in the lawyer's office, where he avoided her eyes and mumbled something about wishing her well. She hadn't responded. Some chapters closed best with silence. Inside, the house was filling with new noise, children's laughter echoing off. Hardwood floors, Keisha humming in the kitchen as she unpacked pots, Trayvon arguing good-naturedly with Malik about where to put the PlayStation. Vandra walked slowly through the rooms, touching familiar things. The dining table where she'd hosted decades of Thanksgivings. The bookshelf holding photo albums from when Trayvon was small. The window seat overlooking the garden where she'd read countless novels on quiet afternoons. This was hers now, truly hers, without the shadow of someone else's calculations hanging over it. A car horn beeped outside, and Vandra looked out to see Quanah Rollins pulling up in a shiny new silver SUV. Nothing extravagant, but worlds away from the rattling old sedan she'd driven before. Her son Jamal, now 21 and in his final year of college, hopped out to help with more boxes. Quanah had given notice at the hospital 3 months ago, using part of the inheritance to enroll in nursing school. Figured if I was going to clean up after sick folks, she'd told Vandra with a grin, might as well learn how to make 'em better. Quanah spotted Vandra at the window and waved enthusiastically, her face brighter than Vandra had ever seen it during those long hospital nights. She came up the steps carrying a large foil-covered dish. "Miss Vandra, brought my famous macaroni and cheese for the housewarming. And some greens, because you know these kids need vegetables." Vandra laughed, opening the door wide. "Come on in, girl. You know you don't have to knock anymore." They hugged carefully. Vandra still moved slowly, and Quanah's eyes shone. "This house looks good on you." "Happy looks good on you." "Feels good too," Vandra admitted. "Come see what Trayvon's done with the guest room. We're turning it into an office for you when you need to study." Quanah shook her head, overwhelmed. "Y'all spoil me too much." "You deserve spoiling," Vandra said firmly. "And so do I. We're making up for lost time." The afternoon unfolded into an impromptu celebration. Neighbors dropped by with welcome-back plants and casseroles. Church ladies from Vandra's congregation arrived with pound cake and stories about how they'd been praying nonstop. Someone put on music, old-school soul that had everyone swaying in the living room. Malik and Jamal set up a basketball hoop in the driveway, turning the quiet street into a playground of shouts and laughter. As evening approached, Vandra slipped away to the back garden, The space was small but perfect. A brick patio, rose bushes just beginning to bud, a wooden bench under a maple tree. She sat carefully, breathing in the scent of turned earth. Trayvon had hired a gardener to refresh everything while she was still in rehab. Now it felt like a new beginning. Kwana joined her a few minutes later, carrying 2 glasses of sweet tea. "Thought you might need a break from all that noise," she said, handing one over. "Bless you," Vandra took a sip. "It's good noise, though, the kind that fills up empty places." They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching fireflies begin to blink in the growing dusk. "You ever think about that night?" Kwana asked quietly. "In the hospital when you first asked for my help?" "Every day," Vandra replied. "Not because it hurts anymore, but because it changed everything. That was the night I stopped settling." Kwana nodded. "For me too. I was going through the motions, work, bills, worry, repeat. Thought that was all life had left for me. Then this elegant lady in a hospital bed offers me a future if I just help." Felt like a fairy tale. "Not a fairy tale," Vandra said. "Just 2 women seeing each other clear for the first time. You saw me as a person, not just another patient. I saw you as someone strong enough to carry a secret and kind enough to act on it." Kwana wiped at her eyes. "Jamal graduates next year. Wants to be an engineer. We're talking about buying a little house. Nothing fancy, just ours. Because of you." "Because of us," Vandra corrected gently. "You took the risk right alongside me." Trayvon appeared in the doorway. "Mama, Keisha's got dinner ready. Everybody's waiting on the guest of honor." "Coming," Vandra called. She stood slowly, Kwana offering an arm for support. The dining room table, extended with both leaves, was crowded with people and food. Trayvon's family, Kwana and Jamal, even Latrice had driven up from Virginia with her 2 teenagers. Plates passed hand to hand, stories overlapping, laughter rising and falling like music. Someone proposed a toast. Glasses, some with tea, some with wine, were raised. "To Miss Vandra," Trayvon said, voice thick, "who fought like hell to come back to us. Who taught us what real strength looks like. And who showed us that family isn't just who you're born. It's who you choose to love when it matters most." "To Vandra," everyone echoed. She looked around the table, at her son's proud face, her daughter-in-law's warm smile, her grandchildren's sticky fingers, Kwana beaming beside her own boy, and felt something settle deep in her chest. Not the old heaviness of illness or betrayal, but a lightness she'd almost forgotten was possible. Later that night, after the house quieted and everyone slept, Vandra stood at her bedroom window watching moonlight silver the garden. Her body still ached some days. Her energy came in measured amounts, but the fear was gone. Death would come eventually. It came for everyone, but it would find her living, fully in whatever time remained. She thought of Drayton briefly, wondered if he was lonely in his new condo, then let the thought go. Some people chose waiting over living. She had chosen differently. Tomorrow they would drive up to the lake house for a long weekend, her first trip since surgery. The grandchildren were already planning fishing and s'mores. Kwana would study for exams on the dock while Jamal helped Trayvon fix the boat lift. Ordinary joys, extraordinary after what they'd all been through. Vandra turned from the window and climbed into bed, the same bed she'd shared with 2 husbands, now hers alone and all the better for it. She whispered her evening prayer, longer than usual, full of specific gratitudes for breath in her lungs, for love around her table, for the courage to rewrite her ending when the old one no longer served. Outside, the cherry blossoms kept falling, soft and steady, covering the old year completely. Inside, Vandra St. James slept peacefully, dreaming of summer days yet to come, days that belonged entirely finally to her.